You'd please rise to honor our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Conway?
Here.
Mr. Gignac?
Here.
Mr. Leary?
Here.
Ms. Martin?
Here.
Mayor Murphy?
Here.
Ms. Rostikowicz?
Here.
7 present.
Thank you. We have under special order of business, the Spotlight on Excellence, the Lowell High School Boys Cross Country Track, and the Lowell High School Girls Cross Country Track. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. These young people have accomplished amazing things, and as a school department, we want to really thank you for your work and take a moment to meet you all and hear about your season. You have been such a pride to all of us, and we find you phenomenal. So I'm going to turn this over to Athletic Director Jimmy DeProfio so he can go forward with making sure we meet these young people.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the school committee, Superintendent Franco, and members of the central administration. Thank you very much for your gracious invitation this evening. It's my pleasure to introduce the boys and girls champion cross-country track teams. As I know that they are too modest to mention their own accomplishments, I'd like to acknowledge before we bring the teams up that both Coach Mary Beth McKinney-Finn and Coach Phil Meyer are Merrimack Valley Conference Coaches of the Year, as voted by their fellow coaches. Congratulations, coaches, well earned. At this time, I'd like to introduce Merrimack Valley Conference champion and MIAA Division I state champion coach, Mary Beth McKinney-Finn.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Superintendent, members of the school committee. Thank you for recognizing us tonight. It's an honor to be here. As Jim said, my name is Mary Beth McKinney. I am the high school coach. I've been with the cross-country program since 1998 and with the track program since 95. I'm a 1986 graduate of Lowell High School. I have 3 wonderful assistant coaches, so I'd like to recognize Tim Patterson, who is a high school graduate from Lowell High, Trish Gabor, who is a current teacher, and Amanda Leahy, who is an alumnus and former athlete and a current teacher in the school system. I would like to introduce the girls on the team who are present. If you girls would like to stand up when I call your name. Okay. Lexi Richards, Kaylee Richards, Libby Maloney, Jessica Graham, Tasha Vega, Addie Sechel, Tina Fan, Erin Dixon, Hannah Laughlin, Gigi Spencer, Malis Brito, Catherine Simmons, Jane Kunju, Christina Graham, Justice Foreman Dolan, Rocio Pays, and Marissa Richards, and Brianna Allison. Just going to recap our season a little bit. We started the season back in August, and the first meet we ran was Clipper Relays, where the team finished 3rd overall. We went on to win the freshman Frank Kelly Invitational, and the varsity team finished 3rd there as well. We had the opportunity to travel to Manhattan as well to run against teams across the Eastern Seaboard, where we had 2 teams who did very well there. We had a JV team that finished 2nd, and the varsity team finished 5th. We went on to win the league championship. We were undefeated, which was the first time since 1989 that there was an undefeated season with girls cross country. We went on to win the Eastern Division I state championship, which again was first time in school history. And then we went on to place 6th at the All-State Championships, which again was a best in school history. We've had 30 student athletes on the team this year. It's difficult to manage their schoolwork and, doing a sport, but majority of them carried over a 3.0 GPA throughout the year. We had several outstanding performances, and I'd just like to recognize some of those girls who had special awards. Senior captain Brianna Allison was voted unanimous by the coaches as runner of the year for the league. She was also a Globe and Herald All-Scholastic team. We had all-conference as well. Brianna was at all-conference. Erin Donovan, Jessica Graham, Sydney Vaughn, Marissa Richards, Kaylee Richards, and Lexi Richards. And along with their success on and off the track, the girls also find time to volunteer. They volunteer at the middle school races, which is a great feeder program for the cross-country program. They do the Bay State Marathon, and the girls also wore pink uniforms for the month of October in honor of breast cancer awareness. It's been a memorable season for us, for coaches and athletes alike. I want to thank Mr. DeProfio for his support in the athletic office for our team, as well as the tremendous support we've had from all the parents as well. Thank you.
Next, it's my pleasure to introduce the coach of the Merrimack Valley Conference, MIAA Eastern Mass Division I, and the Division I All-State Cross Country Champions, Coach Hall of Famer Phil Meyer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Superintendent, members of the school committee. My name is Coach Phil Meyer. I'm a graduate of Lowell High School, class of 1978. This is my 25th year as head coach of the boys program, but I've been involved with the program all 30 years that I've been teaching at the high school. I'd like to introduce my enthusiastic assistant coach, also a graduate of Lowell High School, former standout runner back in the 90s on our cross-country team, indoor and outdoor track teams, Scott Willett, and he will introduce the boys that are here this evening. Scott, please.
Thank you, everybody. 40 boys on our team this year. Great students, like Coach MB said, the boys and girls cross-country teams consistently the top 2 teams at the school as far as their grade point averages for all the sports teams. So that's something that I know that both the boys and girls are very proud of. Of the 40 boys, we'll introduce the ones that are here tonight. The others probably at the library studying, right?
Of course.
We'll start right in this row from this end forward. Senior Micah Wusu, if you want to stand, Mike. Sophomore Nick Dolan. Sophomore Zachary Meyer. Freshman Christian Torres. Senior captain and MVC All-Star Jimmy Rocha. Senior captain, Boston Globe, Boston Herald All-Scholastic, Merrimack Valley Conference, all-conference team, and every other award that you could think of. Pat Coppinger. Down at the other end, senior Keith Stead. Freshman Kyle Hodge. Freshman Justin Dahm. Sophomore Larry Carney. Junior Andrew McCarthy. Freshman Chris Gendron. Freshman Michael Carnazzo. Junior and Merrimack Valley All-Star Andrew Whitney. Junior Tyler Richards. Junior Merrimack Valley All-Conference runner John Abraham. Senior captain, All-Conference runner 2 times, Nick McCardle. Junior All-Conference runner Randy Nong. Senior captain, All-Conference runner Michael Kalinowski. Junior Matt Fowler, MVC All-Star. Freshman Thomas Abraham. I have a sophomore, Brandon Gilman, and junior, Isaiah Ajayi. Those are the boys from the cross-country team who went undefeated on the varsity, the JV, and the freshman this year.
It's an honor to be here before you this evening with the best team in the state of Massachusetts. What a great statement to be able to make. The 2012 Lowell High School boys cross-country team, very proud of these guys. The success of our team was a combination of hard work, attainable goals, and boundless enthusiasm. This was the most successful season in the history of the program. The boys reported on the first day of practice, August 23rd, very excited for the upcoming season and in very good physical shape after having done the necessary work in the summer. We began the season, however, with a big bullseye on our back as the state coaches poll had us ranked as the top team in the state of Massachusetts. And honestly, we felt a bit of pressure to meet that expectation. However, early on, we set a major team goal to win the all-state meet anyway. We were led by a core group of outstanding seniors who provided us with some exceptional and exemplary behavior. I've asked some of the captains to reflect a bit on their experiences. In a few minutes, they'll speak on that. In the league competition, we finished undefeated for the third consecutive year. And as Scott mentioned, the varsity, the junior varsity, and the freshmen were all undefeated. We also defended our title at the Newburyport Clipper Relays by setting a meet record in the process. We won this large invitational meet in Rentham. And Massachusetts state coaches bring hundreds, literally. There was one race, there was over 500 kids in it. We won that meet. And then we won the MVC League meet for the third consecutive year. 5 of our boys were picked as from the 12 spots of the all-conference team. So that speaks of the quality of athletic quality that those individuals possess. The best, however, was yet to come. On Saturday, November 10th, we won the Eastern Mass Division I championship, actually for the third time in the last 4 years. Perhaps the reason that the coaches had us so high in the preseason poll. But this was even more significant because our girls team also won the championship for the very first time. And we believe it's the very first time that the boys and girls from the same school won the Division I championship. What we do is in the state meet, we have basically 2 championships. We have a championship where the schools are grouped by size and a championship where everybody is in together. For example, our girls actually won the large division of all the schools in Eastern Mass. You know, generally, there are about 350 schools that have cross-country programs. Our girls actually beat the all-state champion, but unfortunately, we didn't have a full, the full team. But, you have to be a little bit lucky, I guess. But that was a very nice weekend to have both the boys, such excitement on the bus and everything. It was just, it was something that we'll always remember. The following week, on November 17th, we would make history of our own. After having finished second at the All-State meet the last 2 years to Brookline, we finally put it all together and accomplished that major team goal that we set for ourselves at the beginning of the year to win the All-State title. So very, very proud of that. Told the boys that, in our pre-meet speech, I said, this is a special day for us. We're going to choose how we remember this day. And I think the boys wanted to have some very good memories of that for the rest of their lives, and they will. I would also like to thank Mr. DeProfio and the school administration for your continued support throughout the year. The school committee in particular, I know we need your permission to attend out-of-state meets. We've gone to New York. We've gone to Dartmouth College. These are great meets, great exposure for the team, for the student athletes themselves. And thank you for giving us that permission, because I know that requires a lot of you know, it requires a lot of supervision, and, you know, it's always, you know, important. But we do have the best, we go against the best teams, and that's how we get better. So we need to continue that. Thank you very much for supporting us over the years in that aspect. Again, this was another enjoyable and memorable year for everyone involved with the program, the student athletes, the coaches, and the parents. We hope we made the city proud of our accomplishment. Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. I did ask a few of the boys to reflect a little bit on their experience. If you don't mind, we would like to do that. If you could just step forward if you'd like to, those seniors, please. Okay, Pat. Pat Coppinger, one of our captains, will speak first.
Hi, I'm Pat Coppinger. I'm a senior this year on the cross-country team. I'd like to thank everyone for having us here tonight. I'd like to share briefly how influential the program has been over the last few years on me. Back as a sophomore, my grades started to slip a little bit. I guess I just wasn't that motivated, but figured I'd deal with it. But I was pretty surprised when Coach Maya took me aside one day during the warm-up and addressed me about it. Once the other guys found out, they were all on my case too. It occurred to me that everyone around me, my coaches, my teammates, my friends, they all wanted me to succeed. This was a group of people I could rely on. From then on, I maintained my grades a little bit better, and for the team more than anything else. I think this year it sort of clicked because everyone was there for each other and had each other's backs no matter what. And more I've noticed how specifically the coaches have wanted the best for us. They spend hours planning our training so that we perform to the best of our ability, but also keep it moderate so we're not burnt out in the long run. After all the years that Coach Phil Maya has spent building up Lowell's program, we've never won an All-State championship until this year. And while the runners and the coaches work together to accomplish this, I don't think anyone deserves it more than Coach Maya. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Mike Kalinowski, and I'm a senior captain for Lowell High School cross country. I just wanted to thank the city of Lowell for all the positive support we get every day. I wanted to thank the Lowell School Committee and Mayor Murphy for having us here tonight. I also want to thank Lowell High School Athletic Office and everyone who helped contribute in funding for us to travel and race in big meets all up the East Coast. It really was an honor getting to wear the name Lowell across my uniform and represent the city in a big way. I'm going to miss racing for the city of Lowell after I graduate this year. Thank you.
I'm Jimmy Roach. I'm a senior cross-country team. And looking back at the past 4 years I've had on the cross-country team, it has been an amazing experience for me. I've made true friends, met inspirational coaches, and accomplished things I never thought I would. This team means a lot to me. Since my freshman year, I've grown mentally and physically. Coach Maya and Coach Lowell, along with my many captains I've had, helped shape my attitude towards not only the sport I love, but everywhere. In school, sports, and work, I have the mentality to work hard and enjoy my successes. I believe this is the best program offered at Lowell, not just because I'm a part of this team or because we have a winning tradition. It is the best program because everyone is so involved and dedicated. From the freshmen to the seniors, every single runner works hard and does the right things to succeed. This is a main reason why we have an undefeated season for the freshman, JV, and varsity teams and accomplish what we have this season, including the coaches and parents who help this team out so much with transportation, clothing, meals, and shelter, and most importantly, leading the great kids in this program. I can't thank the coaches, parents, supporters, administration, and my teammates enough for my unforgettable 4 years as a Lowell High cross-country runner, and look forward to the future achievements and successes of this program. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nick McCall, and I would just like to say thank you to everyone sitting here for your support
our team and our team wouldn't have gone anywhere without the help of you guys, and without your support and funding, our team would be lost. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here, and again, congratulations to both teams for a great season. At this point, we're going to try and race through the agenda here. We're going to get to the minutes, approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of Wednesday, November 7th, 2012. Motion to accept and place on file by Ms. Rosikwich, second by Ms. Scott. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have permission to enter. Permission to enter for December 5th, 2012. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Community Training and Assistance Center Incorporated in the sum of $140,000 to provide professional development training to the district, school-based administrators, and leadership teams in the implementation of the Organizational Assessment Survey in the standard bearer process that includes analyzing data, reporting finding, setting priorities, and establishing measurable goals in order to improve teaching and learning in identified priority schools. Funding will be provided by the Race to the Top grant. To Motion Elevator in the sum of $62,600 to provide repair and maintenance service to school elevators in various locations within the city of Lowell. Funding provided by the school department budget contracted services. To Amy M. Young in the amount of $14,400 to provide special education transport services in accordance with an individual education plan. Funding will be provided by the school department budget, special education transportation. To the Early Childhood Associates Incorporated for $70,550 to provide training on the Common Core standards-based curriculum and assessment to administrators, early childhood teachers, and staff to develop a common language around birth through grade 3 alignment grant. Funding provided by the Birth to Grade 3 Alignment Grant.
Thank you. Any discussion? Entertain a motion to approve by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Leary. Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway? Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Rostikowicz?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Thank you. Next, we have memorials. First is Teresa Tuccelli, the aunt of the superintendent of schools, Jean M. Franco. Deborah Stone, sister of Edie LeBron, assistant director of human resources. Danielle Bradley, sister of Melissa Newell, of the Pine Arts School and instructional specialist. June Walsh, aunt of Kathy McCormick, payroll clerk. Michelle L. Marsh Manso, sister of Wayne Marsh, a network manager. Barbara Ann Silva Ryan, aunt of Pamela Gendron, the Greenouch school principal. Rose M. Jarvis, mother of Stephen J. Jarvis, Lowell High School teacher. Mother-in-law of Debbie Jarvis, executive secretary of the Human Resource Office. Grandmother of Michael Jarvis, the evaluation team chairperson at the Bailey and Lincoln schools. And Kevin Jarvis, a Merkland school custodian. If you'd please rise in a moment of silence and darken chambers. May they rest in peace. Next, we have motions First motion by David Conway asks the superintendent to prepare a report that describes various aspects of the hiring process for administrators, supervisors, and citywide coordinators. The report should include the following. How is the membership of the selection committee determined, and who selects the specific individuals to serve on the committee? Which specific jobs within the school system use a selection committee as part of the hiring process? Who participates in the screening of applicants in order to determine which candidates will move forward to a committee interview, and how it is determined whether candidates for a job are interviewed in public while others are not? And the report should be just slightly longer, I guess, than the motion. Seconded by Ms. Martin. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't want to leave anything out, and I didn't want to leave anything to the imagination. So I wanted to be as specific as possible with this because I think that it's extremely important. The employees in any organization must feel that they have an equal opportunity for advancement, and they also must feel that it's a fair process and it's an open process. What sparked this motion was about 2 months ago. I received a telephone call from an ex-colleague of mine, and he said to me that he was rather upset. He said that he felt that he was extremely qualified for a number of jobs, and that in many cases he never even got interviews. And again, I can see the frustration that might take place, and I realize that he's approaching this from a very personal point of view because he figures that, needless to say, in this particular case, he's been at the high school a number of years and worked very hard, and he felt that he should have at least the opportunity to be heard. And he also wanted to let me know that he was willing to bring forward another half a dozen people that were equally frustrated with the whole process. And they wanted to meet with me, and I said, I think it might be more appropriate if we put a motion on the floor and to be as specific as possible so that we can understand how the process actually works. And I think that I certainly can understand the frustration that has taken place because some jobs are out in the open and some are not. And I'd like to know why. And I think that this report obviously is going to explain that. Sometimes we have 4 or 5 people interviewing for a particular job that might be citywide, and yet other jobs that might be 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. For a number of years, Mr. Mayor, there has been a process that had been in place. I checked with the former superintendent of schools, George Sapasaris, just to reiterate that, and he said certainly in the 90s and in 2000 up to I think somewhere around 2004, 2005, there was a specific process that was used that I believe there was somewhere in the vicinity of 10 or 11 individuals that would interview in the open, out in the open. And I've been told by different people, different stories. I myself was an administrator in the high school, and I had an interview with 11 people interviewing me in the open. And I think it's a fair process, and I think it's a process that people feel that that they have that opportunity, the same opportunity as anyone else. And I think that when they see individuals that they feel might be related or might be friends and so forth, they get very frustrated with this process. And I think that this particular motion will help to clear it up once and for all so that we can be as consistent as possible when we are advertising for administrative jobs. We are selecting them, we are interviewing them, and we're actually making the final picks. And I think with consistency, it's very difficult to argue against consistency, and I think that's what people want, our employees. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think if the maker of the motion would allow, I would like to make it even longer. Because what I think one of the key things that we need to have as well is what are we required to do? I understand Mr. Conway's approach and what he's looking for. I will say I have concerns about our hiring process, that there are many cases where it is entirely too cumbersome, that we have a multitude of steps that I'm hoping we might be able to streamline. One of the biggest challenges this district faces is when we're trying to fill positions, and the process itself can get in our way. I strongly support consistency. I think that our policy should be followed the same way all day, every day. But I do think that this would be an opportunity to look at what our policies are, look at them in the context of exactly what the law requires us to do. I know that there are some requirements placed on us by ed reform that require certain processes be part of this. But I think our overall approach to our hiring and recruitment, now is the time to have that conversation in a larger context. So as we get this report, if we could also get a section at least that would tell us exactly what we're required by law to do, so that we can make a well-informed decision about what we want to craft, one that will work in the best interests of the district as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Conway.
Yeah, just very quickly, I think what's important too is to keep in mind, especially during, which we have often said, and I've often said on the floor, we've got difficult economic times. People want to be assured that their money is being spent correctly. Just in the Sun, just the other day, they talked about a shortfall, perhaps in Lowell, of maybe even somewhere in the vicinity, I believe, $11 million. This is obviously very disturbing, and that when we pick an individual and we pay them X amount of dollars, I think it's incumbent on us that we do the best job we possibly can for the taxpayer. And the taxpayer wants to know that that money is being spent correctly. And again, I think the whole idea of having it out in the open and transparency, I think this is something that I think it's extremely important that we do that, so that there is nothing that people feel that would be hidden. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. On the amendment, do we have a second? Seconded by Ms. Rosikowicz. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Any further discussion on the motion as amended? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion we have by David Conway, asks the superintendent for a report on the number of buybacks for period 1 classes at the high school during the last school year and during the current school year. Seconded by Ms. Martin. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion's a little shorter than the last one. The other night we had a meeting at Lowell High School, and some of the things that we talked about, which we'll be discussing in a rather lengthy subcommittee report. One of my colleagues, Kristen Rosikowicz, asked a question which I thought was excellent, and it dealt with the when we made some changes with our scheduling, whether that had any effect, academic effect on our students. And I think that this motion might help to bring some light on that a bit. I'm not sure if everyone understands the buybacks, but just very quickly, it's when a student goes over the number of days that he or she is allowed to be absent. And again, it gets a little complicated, but I just want to simplify it, that they have an opportunity to buy back those days. In other words, spend an extra period after school to supplement that or cancel out that day that they were out. And I think that will certainly help to create better scores and also more opportunity for students to pass. So I think that might help clear it up a bit, because I think when I saw the numbers come out, I was impressed with it. But I want to find out also, as my colleague does too, is what does that actually do for our academics, and how does that actually improve it? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by David Conway, to ask the superintendent to report whether there has been a change in the official school colors of red and gray for Lowell High School teams and other school-sponsored clubs and groups. Seconded by Mr. Gignac. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, this is very short, but somebody that has been a graduate of Lowell High actually quite a few years ago, and there's a few of us here that have graduated from Lowell High, and the colors have always been traditional, what we call Lowell High School red and gray, and if I recall, and again, asking some individuals that have a little bit more experience than I do, said that that's been a vote by the school committee literally decades ago, and that's not to be changed by any individual unless it's reviewed and changed by the school committee. And I went to, which I think a number of my colleagues went to, the Thanksgiving game. Lowell High played Haverhill. And it was amazing, the band, which I think we're all extremely very proud of. There were days that I think some of us remember that there were very few people in the band, and now it has really blossomed, and it's a very successful, and I think we're all extremely very proud of it. But I was a little taken back, and some of the alumni that were there commented on the uniforms, band uniforms. They were bright red and black, and as one individual said, I didn't know that, I think they said, was it Brockton or somebody, I didn't know they were playing at our game, and they were a little surprised that it was Lowell High School colors. So again, some people might not think it's that important, but I think it is, because what it does show is it's tradition, and I think that anybody that, I mean, people that have graduated from their high school are very proud of it, and they're also very proud of their colors. And I think that we have to review that and find out who are picking the colors and how is it being done. Because I have no idea why somebody would allow black and bright red to be used instead of our traditional red, which is really a maroon, and gray. I have no idea who would allow that. And I'm just asking the superintendent if she could look into that and find out what the process is, and if we could make sure that once again, it's consistent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next, we have motion by James Leary. Request the superintendent discuss with the city administration the feasibility of assigning a full-time plumber solely responsible to the Lowell Public Schools. Seconded by Mr. Gignac. Mr. Leary.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate Mr. Gignac seconding my motion. Thank you very much, Mr. Gignac. We have 26 facilities, building facilities in the Lowell Public Schools. An average of about 700 to 800 folks are in those buildings at any given time, if you include the high school. High school alone is over 3,000 people, including staff. We've had a good commitment from the city in making some repairs, but one of the areas that we're still deficient on is the plumbing. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I appreciate the city's dialogue with us in the past when we had facility meetings with the facility subcommittee from the city council in the spring, but I think we need to have a dialogue in terms of having personnel that can actually adequately handle these issues that come up on a daily basis. We could use a plumber at Lowell High School alone, but I think if we had a plumber designated specifically to the school system, we could address these issues in a more timely fashion. And I appreciate having that dialogue, and I'm confident that the city administration will be willing to have a good discussion about it. In terms of using that, in terms of the funding going forward, is something they can use as their school-based effort, maintenance of effort. But I think I ask my colleagues to support the motion so we can begin that dialogue with the city administration. Thank you.
Ms. Rosikowicz.
Well, I think it's important in considering the assignment of a full-time plumber to our schools. I think in advance of that, I'd like to see, as part of this process, a report that reflects data on the service needs throughout the district and how they are met currently and how we propose to meet them with this potentially newly assigned full-time plumber to our system. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that's a good point that Ms. Rosikowicz just made. And I think we looked at the list of tickets a few months back, and there was over 1,400 that were open, and I'm sure there were hundreds of plumbing issues alone. I know walking around, look at the schools, there's at least a handful of toilets and sinks at every school that are simply not functioning. Not even to mention the water bubblers. I think there's probably one water bubbler in each school that kind of works once in a while. So I do think this is a good idea that Mr. Leary has come up with, and whatever we can do to improve the environment at the schools, I think is something that we really need to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have subcommittees. Personnel Subcommittee, approval of the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, November 7th, 2012. Ms. Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had reported out on this meeting at our last school committee meeting, so tonight we're just approving the minutes. So I'd put that forth as a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Leary. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have the Facilities Subcommittee, approval of the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, November 7th, 2012. Mr. Leary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We reported out this in the last meeting. I make that as a form of a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion by Mr. Leary, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have Student Support Services Subcommittee, report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of Tuesday, November 27th, 2012. Ms. Rosikowicz.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. So the Student Support Services Subcommittee met on November 27th. In attendance were myself, Committeeman David Conway, Robert Gignac, and Kim Scott, Superintendent Franco, Ann Murphy, Michael Cassidy, Margot Ferrick, Roxanne Howe, and Lisa Gilbicki were also in attendance. First up for discussion was the head lice management policy. The school nursing supervisor, Lisa Gilbicki, proposed changes to our current policy regarding the exclusion of students due to nits and head lice. In accordance with the recommendations of the CDC and the Department of Public Health, the new policy would exclude students who are found with live lice, but allow students with nits only to remain in school. And the point that Ms. Gilbicki had made was they had identified through data a number of students that were out of school for weeks at a time that did not have active lice. So the purpose, obviously, is to keep these children in school who are able to. So the new policy filed JLCC-R, head lice examination and evaluation, outlines a protocol for checking and rechecking students that the school nurses will follow. Information for parents on how to prevent head lice and how to eliminate it will be made available and will also be translated into multiple languages as is appropriate for each individual family. So there is a motion to accept it as a report of progress and recommend to the full committee the adoption of policy JLCC-R, head lice examination and evaluation.
Motion by Ms. Rosikowicz.
Yes.
Seconded by Ms. Martin. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Excuse me, roll call.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Rosikowicz?
Yes.
7 yeas approved.
Ms. Rosikowicz.
The next item on our agenda was the social media policy. This is in response to a motion that was filed by myself. A task force was created to establish a social media policy relative to our employees, our district employees. Members of the task force included Human Resources Director Michael Cassidy, District Support Specialist Margot Ferrick, Discipline and Operations Specialist Dr. Roxanne Howe, Attorney Michael Ortiz, and Technology Director William Silva. After researching current policy from several school districts, the task force created a comprehensive policy which provides guidelines for staff when using social media to interact with students and is consistent with the acceptable use policy. The policy further outlines disciplinary procedures for staff who violate the policy. Subcommittee members asked that a statement relative to the monitoring and oversight of principals and administrators be added to the policy. And so the attached policy to our packet actually contains that revision. I might also note that This is a preemptive policy rather than a reactive policy. There are no issues that have been identified in the district. However, there have been several districts that we've seen in the media that have had gaffes, have experienced gaffes with social media, and have been, essentially put their districts at risk. So we're really taking a preemptive look at this and establishing good, sound policy in advance so we can head off any real issue. So there is a motion to accept the report as a report of progress and recommend to the full committee the adoption of policy file IJ NDD social media policy.
Which, seconded by Mr. Gignac. Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Okay, the third item is the Youth Build Program. Superintendent Jean Franco informed the subcommittee of discussions she had with Community Teamwork Incorporated relative to the possibility of establishing a pilot program with Youth Build. Initial discussions focused on a small cadre of students receiving academic instruction at Lowell High School in the morning and participating in the Youth Build program in the afternoons. Students would be eligible for a Lowell High School diploma. There was a motion to accept a report of progress with a follow-up report to be presented at the Lowell High Subcommittee meeting on December 13th.
Motion by Ms. Rosikowicz, seconded by Mr. Gignac. Any discussion? Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to mention as we go through the voting that I'll be voting present. So if I could request a roll call, and I know we're all in a situation, but as a employee at Community Teamwork, I wouldn't be voting on something specific.
Sure. Roll call,
So
please.
let's have another roll call.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Present.
Mayor Murphy?
Present, as I'm on the board. So.
Ms. Ross Sikowicz?
Present.
4 yeas, 3 present, passes.
Lastly, we'll take a motion then to, if that's the end of your report,
Yes, that would be the end of my report.
then we'll take a motion to accept and place on file by Ms. Rosikowicz, seconded by Mr. Conway. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next we have the Lowell High School Subcommittee. Report on the approval of the minutes of the meeting of Thursday, November 29th, 2012. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize in advance for its rather lengthy report, but I do certainly thank Claire Abrams for putting this together. Thank you very much, Claire. I appreciate it. Present at the Lowell High School Subcommittee with myself, Robert Gignac, Kristen Rosikowicz, and also other members, Jim Leary, Kim Scott, and Connie Martin, Jean Franco, the superintendent, Claire Abrams, assistant superintendent. We also had the headmaster. We had Lowell High School curriculum director, Dr. Wendy Jack, the science department head, Roger Mono, and data processing, Mark Liu. There were 5 agenda items on the agenda, and the first one was addressing STEM and Mass Core through science electives. I think that during this presentation here from the high school, there were a number of concerns that we had, and I think that, again, I will try to stick with the salient points, but I'm sure that my colleagues will certainly like to add to it. The first one was addressing the STEM and the Mass Core through science elective. Dr. Jack proposed a change to redesign the delivery of instruction in science classes at Lowell High School. The main objective of the proposal would be to create equitable 5-period classes for all honors and college-level science classes. Points that were discussed during this the need to create additional science electives, and it was brought out the fact that because we had so many cuts in the last few years, this might help to bring an opportunity so our students could pick up some more electives, strong electives. The need to better balance course offerings to both the honors and the college level, and class size, and also being equitable in regards to the time on learning for both college and honors. Basically, what ended up happening, I think, in that is there were a lot of discussion going back and forth, and I think that we decided that on the 13th, we needed some more information to be brought forward, especially in the areas of what type of effect this might have on college admission, and also what type of, whether it would have, what type of time that would be spent on each class. And I think that was brought up by Mr. Leary and Ms. Sikowicz, where there was certainly a concern in that area. There was a motion that was put forth on this first agenda item by Mr. Gignac and second by Ms. Sikowicz to recommend to the committee as a whole to continue this discussion at the December 13th subcommittee meeting after gathering more information on college requirements and developing a graph of comparisons to other districts in relation to time devoted to science classes and their labs. Do you want to bring that forward now, Mr. Mayor?
Sure. Motion by Mr. Conway, seconded by Mr. Gignac. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Mr. Conway.
And the second item was the reception area, and this was, we discussed this because of a motion that Mr. Leary put on back a while ago, and that was to request the superintendent and her staff to explore the feasibility and provide a recommendation on establishing a central entrance and reception type area security station in the main lobby of the 1980 building of Lowell High School. That was brought forward. There were some of the items that were talked about were the staffing. In other words, who was going to staff this area? Was it going to be a security person? Would it be a clerk? And also we talked about what type of materials and information would be available at that particular area, whether we needed computers, whether there was a station there that like we find in other schools, and basically the talk about who was going to do it and how it was going to be done, and also the cost. And I think what we've done with that also is we brought that forward by a motion by Ms. Sikowicz and second by Mr. Gignac, to recommend to the committee as a whole to continue the discussion of course, with more information coming forward at the December 13th subcommittee meeting, and also to request that Mr. Curley be present to discuss in more detail. And that was passed by 3-0 to be brought to the floor of the committee as a whole.
Motion by Mr. Conway, seconded by Ms. Martin. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Mr. Conway.
Thank you. And the third point, Lowell High School tardies, and I think that basically ran in with the advisory Class 2 schedule, which was number 4. The following motion by Kim Scott and Kristen Rosikowicz request the superintendent provide an update as to how this year's schedule change at Lowell High School has impacted tardiness rates and discipline. And I think this is extremely important here, because I think it was brought out that there was a tremendous amount of data that was given here, and basically what it all amounts to is it seems as though it was very successful, the change, but I think any time that you make a major change, I think what we need to do is there needs to be a follow-up. And again, when we first looked at the figures, and I'm not going to bore everyone with all these figures here, but it seems as though a couple points that I want to bring out, it represents a decrease of over 58% in the number of unexcused tardy instances from 2011 to 2012. It also indicates in 2012 totals increased, is a decrease of 57% from that 5-year average. And again, I think that falls into place what Ms. Sikowicz, I think, was talking about, was what type of effect does it have on the academics, and I think that motion that we just passed tonight will help to clarify a little bit of this information, at least on the academic part of it. On the surface, it certainly seems to be effective. Again, I think it's something that the administration needs to take a good look at for the next couple of years, just to make sure that, again, anytime we make a major change, we want to make sure that it's the most effective change. And we need to get the data to follow up on that. The advisory class schedule, excuse me, the headmaster is recommending the following change in advisory scheduling for the second semester. Having studied the master schedule for 2 semesters and having identified a time period that will accomplish both goals, the high school would like to continue the positive trend with student attendance by keeping advisory during the school day, return advisory to the schedule for every day of the week. And again, there was quite a bit of discussion in regards to that. After reviewing the schedule closely, we have found that we can move advisory class to period 6 with almost no class disruption. Only 4 classes have been consulted, and they all agree that the disruption to their plans, if any, would be minimal. Members were in favor of the advisory period returning to a 5 days a week. I think that was important, and it was certainly brought out. There was also questions around the afternoon time slot rather than the morning. There seems to be concerns with that. We had a motion by Mr. Gignac and second by Ms. Ross-Sikowicz to recommend to the committee as a whole to bring back the advisory period to 5 days a week, beginning with the 2013-2014 school year. And it's a policy change. I think we need to take a vote on that, be brought to the committee.
Motion by Mr. Conway, seconded by Mr. Gignac. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Ross-Sikowicz?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Mr. Conway.
In the last point, Mr. Mayor, that we discussed, the Aspen X2 parent portal, the following session addressed the motion below. The motion by Mr. Leary requests the superintendent provide an update to the Lowell School Committee regarding Lowell High School portal. The report should include the number of teachers and parents who are utilizing the portal, recommendations from the teachers and parents on any improvements that should be made to the portal and how to increase participation in the portal. The headmaster updated the committee on as far as the usage, said that there was 102 teachers that are now registered using the portal. And it represented about 51% of the teaching staff. There are still approximately 98 teachers that have not bought onto this system. And also to the date, approximately 400 families representing over 550 students have registered to use the Aspen portal. This represents approximately 18% of the school with access to the portal. So I think that at this particular point there was quite a bit of discussion surrounding the fact of how do we get more people involved, and that I believe we talked about having a let's see now. I think we were going to have some type of survey. Thank you. I appreciate that. A survey that would help us and help the administration find out what can be done to perhaps bring those other 98 teachers on board. So again, I think this is what they were. There was quite a bit of discussion surrounding that. There was a motion by Ms. Ross-Sikowicz, second by Mr. Gignac, to recommend to the committee as a whole authorization to ask Lowell High School administrators to survey parents and teachers as to why they are not using the X2 portal, parent portal at this time, and bring that to the floor.
Motion by Mr. Conway, seconded by Mr. Leary. On the motion?
Just quickly,
Mr.
thank
Leary.
you. I appreciate the dialogue. It was a good discussion in terms of who's using it, and 18% of the parents in using it is really, that's bad. I know that they've done the best they can in terms of promoting it, marketing on the website, at every Friends of Lowell High meeting, et cetera. There's an old motion that Mr. Leahy, or former committee member or Council Leahy, and I put on, I think it's got to be 2 years old now, about getting the portal extended into the middle schools. I think that's part of the issue with parents, is having the understanding that you get it at the middle school level as well as into the elementary school level. So that might be part of the way we can attack that 18%. The other part, a survey, I mean, 98 teachers is a lot. If we can whittle that, cut that in half, understand why. There might be an apprehension as to, you're going to look at my grade book and kind of like trying to take over the territory of the teacher. That's not the issue. I think the issue is this actually makes the teacher's job more effective and makes them hopefully to achieve their goals in the classroom. So I appreciate targeting a specific survey to the teachers that don't use it and say essentially why. Not knowledge of the technology, not having the technology, et cetera. But I think it was a good start. I think the portal is something that's a valuable resource for parents. Even for parents, if teachers not using the portal, you can get attendance data, you do get report card data, so you can at least at the bare minimum, every parent can ascertain, or guardian, can ascertain whether or not their child's been in school, which I think is important, especially as being a kid in high school. Believe me, no one knew where I was half the time. And so I think it's kind of important that this is one way a parent can be an effective parent, even at the minimum. So I thank my colleagues for supporting this, and hopefully it'll be an effective tool. Thank you.
Ms. Ross-Akewich.
Thank you. Another point of discussion that was brought up was with regard to how a parent would create an account or to be able to access the system. And as I understand, what I took from the discussion, that currently it's done by hand or in writing versus being able to do it electronically. And the gentleman who's really in charge of this had mentioned that they're currently beta testing an electronic enrollment version, and hopefully we'll have that out by the end of the school year. So I'm sure that will make it much easier for parents to be able to electronically set up accounts so that they can also access the system.
Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much. As my colleague mentioned, I think that's really a critical piece of this, is ensuring that parents, and again, we want to make it as easy as possible. I think one of the key things is that once we have an automated system that people can access via email, that really puts us then in the driver's seat to be able to promote this in terms of outreach. We can do a mass email to all of our parents. We can do a connected phone call that says, check your email. This is an option where we can make it specific for our high school parents, high school families. And I think once we have that process in place, it's going to make it much easier for us to use some pretty recognizable outreach tools and be able to, I think, really bring that 18% number up dramatically. I think the other aspect of this, too, from the staff perspective is, I think we do need to get some information. I think the survey is a great idea to find out teacher reactions, to be able to gauge the teachers who we have who are already engaged in the system, what they feel they're getting out of it. Because even just in some of my anecdotal conversations with some of the teachers, it's been really positive, that they've really, they see it as a positive move, and I think more importantly, they see it as something with real potential to help them do their jobs and work better with students and families. But I do think that, moving forward, this has to be our expectation. That we, are looking at our entire teaching staff across this district. As we move forward, technology needs to become more and more a part of our everyday lives, that our communication with families, with the greater community, has to constantly be improving. And I think that needs to be incorporated into the way we are looking at teacher performance. It needs to be a critical part of the way that we judge our own performance as a school committee and as a district as a whole. So I think that we've made some dramatic steps forward, which are really encouraging. And I think we're on the cusp of taking some other, making some other really, great steps. But I do think it's important for us to recognize the importance of what this technology can mean for us, it will only be as good as the policies we build around it. And the supports we build around it. So I congratulate the committee, the subcommittee, in kind of bringing this forward and keeping our eye on this. I think it's really, it's something we need to be paying attention to as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Scott, and then Mr. Conway.
Okay. The conversation that happened at the end of the meeting was with Mr. Liu, and one of the options that he brought up was, at the time that they started doing this, he said the systems weren't in place for automatic passwords to go out to parents. So he also said we could continue the discussion about automatically enrolling parents. Instead of having an opt-in, you would have an opt-out for parents. And I think that would certainly bring up the 18%, you know, even if it's just curiosity that a parent gives it a try, finds out how easy it is to access grades. So I hope that we continue in that discussion going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Anything left to report, Mr. Conway?
No, I think we probably
Pretty
need
comprehensive, wasn't it?
Well, believe me, I cut out about 80% of it, so.
Thank you.
But I do thank Claire Abrams for her report, though. A motion for report of progress, is that
Motion
appropriate?
for report of progress by Mr. Conway, seconded by Ms. Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Finally, we have the Curriculum Subcommittee report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of Thursday, November 29th, 2012. Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. At our meeting, present were, for the subcommittee on curriculum and instruction, present were myself, also members of the subcommittee, Mr. Leary and Ms. Scott, and Mr. Gignac also joined us. From central office, we had Superintendent Franco, Assistant Superintendent Claire Abrams, our pre-K-12 coordinator of both science and social studies, Marty Cohn, Doug Prime, who is the district's STEM district support specialist, and then we did also have some presentations from some outside people. I'm going to start with the first research study, which was presented to the subcommittee for approval. This is from a group called Families United in Educational Leadership. It was presented by Caitlin Lemoyne and I have Jean Miller listed here, but I don't believe that was the presenter. I believe that was somebody from the organization. They were presenting, this is an organization, they're working in a variety of different areas across the Commonwealth, trying to introduce financial literacy and match savings programs for families, encouraging them to be making investments for their children's college educations. It's basically a program where they are working with families doing financial literacy education. Also, as part of the process, they do provide a match savings program so that as families put away money towards their children's college education, it's matched by this program. I think it has, they have some interesting ideas. I think they're still at this point in the research stage, so that they're trying to craft a control group, basically, that they'd be able to use to kind of compare and contrast to the work that they're doing in other areas. Particularly, we were looking at their work in Chelsea, which is certainly, a comparable district in a lot of ways. I think the key thing for the committee to be aware of is that this research study basically will come down to us sharing anonymous data on our students and their performance. No names will ever be attached to it. It will be randomized in terms of the individual students that will be included. And it's really, again, just to provide this group with a control group that they can then compare their findings in some other districts. Some key things, again, for the committee to be aware of. Built into this is a $5,000 stipend for the district, basically to offset the costs that we all recognize are associated with pulling together this data. So that's one key thing. I think the other is that there is potential in the future that moving forward, Lowell could become a test site for this group where our students and their families would then have access to the financial literacy education, as well as access to this match savings program that encourages investments in children's futures and future education. So at this point, we'd be asking the committee to consider, our limited engagement. It would only be sharing our data, again, in an anonymous format, that we would be, the district would be compensated for with a $5,000 stipend. I'd put it forward in the form of a motion to approve this research study be allowed to move forward here in the Lowell Public Schools.
Motion by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Rossikwich. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Scott?
Yes?
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
No.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Rossikwich?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 nay, approved.
Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much. Our second presentation at the subcommittee meeting was a former student of the Lowell Public Schools who is actually currently a student at Suffolk University. She had come before the committee basically to ask for our help, and I think more specifically for some help from the administration in a project, a business systems project that she has going on. I'd just like to say the committee was very helpful, and I appreciate the group's willingness to let this student come in and do her work so that she can finish her school project. So I appreciate that. I also have to thank the administration because I know that they've done a great deal to help her and her partner who came to present before the committee. So I appreciate that. I just submit that as a report of progress. That we can submit that at the end. The next topic we discussed was a motion that had been made by my colleague, Ms. Scott, regarding Civics Day field trips. We did get some information about trips that are already kind of happening at in various schools across the district. I think what Assistant Superintendent Abrams, I think, presented fairly clearly was that there is some activity going on and that it would really be in our best interest to pull together individuals to come up with a more comprehensive approach to this moving forward for next school year. As we discussed it, the idea of being able to incorporate a number of different sites throughout, kind of, even if we were just focusing on the downtown, so that you could really bring we could really bring our students here and make it a real event, make it a kind of Civics Day event, so that you could really involve, whether it's, picking a grade. I know we were talking about, third, fourth, picking one grade, that across the district, all our students would be able to participate. That certainly is a bit of a logistical challenge, but I have great faith that Ms. Abrams and Mr. Dakota will be able to make that happen with great ease. And I think the entire subcommittee, and I suspect the entire committee as a whole, is very pleased at the idea that we'd be able to implement something that would be kind of a citywide memory for our students as they go through the Lowell Public Schools. So the motion was to accept this as a report of progress, and that the administration will be reporting back to the Curriculum and Instruction Committee with a plan so that we can fully implement this for our next school year. Though we should be aware that there are certain events that will be going on that are already planned to happen in the district in the spring. Our next topic was the technology training videos. This was a result of a motion by Mr. Leary. Basically, this was a request to ensure that as we're moving forward with professional development and other training activities here in the district, that we use our video capacity to be able to kind of film videos so that they can be available for our teaching staff, so they can access them, in the most convenient way. Which I think is something that we're all very much in favor of. We did discuss that there was a video that has gone up and is available to our district on the report cards, which I think is a great opportunity for teaching staff as they're going through, where we've made some changes to the report cards in the fairly recent history. So that is one. As we talk about some of the other, we're talking about whether we're talking about new Common Core standards, whether we're talking about other content issues, so that we really could use both our internal capacity for creating these educational videos and also be able to make them widely available on YouTube or one of the other sharing sites, so that our district would be able to share our expertise across the district and really even beyond. The next topic was a discussion of our STEM activities, science, technology, engineering, and math. We did have a presentation that let us know what the workshops are going to be for, the ones that are happening this fall, kind of wrapping up now, obviously, and then what the plans are for our winter, spring in 2013, what we'll be looking at in terms of workshops. They are happening at a number of different sites throughout the district, mainly at the Rogers, where students are coming in to do the projects, also at the Robinson, the Butler, and at the Freshman Academy. I think we're very excited to see these kinds of hands-on, tactical kind of workshops and programming for our students, and really I think the focus for all of us is going to be moving forward to make sure that we're ensuring more and more of this as part of our students' everyday lives in the Lowell Public Schools. We also did get some brief information regarding the summer programming that will be going on. Again, the science camps that will be sponsored by the Lowell Public Schools. There will be a fee-generating activity, which is kind of a bit of a first for us. But I think it should be an interesting opportunity, and we'll be looking forward to getting more and more information on that. And, you know, again, when I think maybe the coolest part of all this is when you start hearing what some of the subject areas are. We've got students at the Freshman Academy who are going to be creating their own video games. We've got Lego robotics going on at the Sullivan. Crime science happening, that would be one of the summer events, a forensic science camp. So it's some really, really interesting things that are designed specifically to engage students in whole new ways, ways that a textbook or even an online experience can never give them, where they're able to manipulate and physically interact with the scientific world. It's something that is desperately needed in our district, more and more of, and I think it's really quite exciting to see us moving forward in such a positive way in this area. So I would submit that as a report of progress, and I would also like to say that even that was shorter than Mr. Conway's report. Thank you very much.
Motion by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Gignac. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted, 1 nay. Next, we have reports of the superintendent. Stand up 2012. Madam Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recently, our students, about over 300 students from middle schools, were invited to the Songa Center to attend an anti-bullying, Stand Up to Bullying 2012 Community Coalition. And this was hosted by Congresswoman Nikki Songas, Department of Education, as well as Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center and the Massachusetts Interscholastic Association. There were 5,000 children that were in the Songas Arena, and it was a very exciting program. We had representatives from all of our schools. How we arranged that was handled through the Office of Student Services. We found that the students enjoyed the day and thought that it was a really very nice rally, that it was in Lowell, gave us the opportunity to have children from all of our schools, including the high school. And if there are any more details the committee would like to ask, Mrs. Murphy will have all of those. So thank you.
Any discussion on this report? Entertain a motion to accept and place on file is by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Conway. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next report, Lowell High School graduation cost. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. At our last meeting, there was a request for more information about graduation costs and how they were escalating over time. And so Mr. Lang did some research into the costs, what the fees were included. I'm just going to give a general overview, and then I'm going to direct you to actually some of the details further in the report. As you can see on the first page from 2009, it was $9,500, and now it's risen up to $17,079. I will say that there were inquiries that were made, and the price is not negotiable. It goes through the agency at the university. I even checked that with other very reputable personal connections, and that's what I was told, that it is a set fee, and that's the information I got. However, it was very interesting that the rental of the facility is $3,000. If you go to page, probably, if you go to page 1, it's almost at the end, 2 from the bottom. It actually tells the other fees that are put onto that rental. So the $3,000 rental then has what it costs, it appears, what was uncovered by Mr. Lang's report is that the rental is a fee, almost like you pay your tuition and your fees. And so all of the others are the costs that are incurred. So I would imagine, and I don't know this for a fact, but in a graduation like ours, with such a large crowd, the police is one thing. And so if you look at the itemized costs, that's the information that was uncovered. And comparatively, because Mr. Conway specifically asked about, how much it's going up every year, there is a small fee from last year. It was $16,807 last year. It's $17,079 this year. So not that I have any great news that we can save much money, but we did look into it just for your information. Thank you.
Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I look at these numbers, from 2009 to 2013, it's absolutely absurd that the cost almost doubles. And by the way, I want to thank you, Madam Superintendent, and Deputy Superintendent Lang for putting the report together. And you're absolutely right. The $3,000 that seems to stay stable. However, everything else moves quite quickly. And when I take a look at the numbers, and it goes, I don't know too much that goes from 95 and change up to $17,000 in a matter of 4 to 5 years. That's an incredible increase. And I look at it this way, University of Massachusetts, there's no doubt about it, it's a great ally, a great asset, great partner. However, I think here we are, Lowell High School, we're in our own city. University is in our own city. You would think that there would be some type of break that would be given. I mean, I'd like to see what the costs are with the other with other high schools coming in and renting. I mean, is it the same amount of money? And when they talk about breaking down the chairs and so forth and setting up, anytime I've ever been there, taking a look at graduation, the chairs are already up from the graduation prior to. So they're getting a breakdown and setting up on each and every group that comes in there. So I think that I'd like to say they're nickel and a dime us to death, but certainly when we go from 95 to 17,000, it's a lot more than that. I would like to see some type of reaching out, and I realize that, when you said that $3,000, I believe was standard and was not negotiable. Is that correct?
In general, I was told that the fees aren't negotiable. They're set, and so the fees. I am not quite sure because I do not know the graduation fee for something. I know Tewksbury High, all of the neighboring towns have their graduation there, so I don't know. I know the 3,000 is standard in all of the other events, depending on how many. I don't know if that varies, Mr. Conway.
No,
I just got the Lowell report.
No, I understand that. I can understand why 3,000 would be there. I'm just saying when you start off and what does it cost to rent? $3,000, and then all of a sudden it's 17, and then it becomes $17,000. It really, I don't know of anything else that has jumped like that. Anyways, I think we are behind the 8 ball with it. Obviously, we need a place for our students to graduate. But again, I think it might be worthwhile still to be able to reach out to them and see if they can take a look at it and we can bring some saner people, saner ideas to the table here to see if we can get these numbers down. Because again, we're going through some tight times. And when all of a sudden we're talking about an $8,000 increase, an $8,000 certainly can help us in our budget too. And I think that everybody here believes that we certainly should pay our fair share, but I think that's a lot more than our fair share. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Leary.
if you notice the increases, I think you can take a look at when the city owned the Songus Arena, the costs were far less reduced. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why you guys were running $1 million deficit, is because, you know, you're looking at 9,000, 13,000, and then it jumps up to 17,000. As Mr. Conway clearly articulates, that's a significant jump. But I think they're probably going to be running it in the black as opposed to the red. I agree with Mr. Conway. We should try to reach out to the UMass Lowell and see if there's a way we can reduce some of the costs. And I think there's a lot of other issues we're looking at with Mass Lowell that have higher importance. One of them, looking at the Lowell High School. So I think that should take more priority than looking at this. I think in business, you need to make sure you're running efficiently. If there's other options for us to look at, maybe going outside, maybe going back to the auditorium, if that's the area the committee wants to take a look at in an effort to achieve savings, I think we should explore that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Entertain then a motion to accept the report and place on file by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Conway. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. We have under new business the Merkland School Agreement. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, earlier this evening, there was a presentation by Mr. Hall that the committee looked at, looking at the Merkland School Agreement proposal, which were the last 3 pages of the document. And I would just like to get your opinion to accept or deny that particular proposal.
What's the wish of the committee?
Yes. There was a motion to accept it by 5-0, so yes, I guess it's already taken care of in executive session.
Maybe motion,
Thank you, okay.
motion to postpone, really. Motion to postpone by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leary. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Entertain then a motion to adjourn by Ms. Rossikwich, seconded by Ms. Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, we stand adjourned, despite the nay.